Hey everyone, it's John Buck back with another discrete time linear systems video. And in this video, we're going to talk about how we go from a difference equation to a frequency response. So how we have Fourier transform properties that let us take an equation that tells us how to compute the output in terms of delayed and scaled versions of itself and the input, and get from that to say what is the frequency response h of e to the j omega that tells us the gain to apply to every frequency in an input signal. So let's see how we do that. So again, our topic is converting from a difference equation to a frequency response using our newly found mastery of the Fourier transform properties. Just to sort of motivate you, I'm going to show you the example first, talk about the general case, and then we'll come back to the example here. But what the example is, imagine I had a problem that said, suppose I have a causal LTI system where we have 7x of n minus 2x of n minus 1 is equal to y of n minus 7/10 y of n minus 1 plus 1/10 y of n minus 2. And right now, these things might seem kind of made up and silly, but we'll see in a few weeks. Give me a little time and we'll start talking about how do we come up with these difference equations for different kind of systems soon. But the question we might be trying to ask based on this, as we might say, is what is the frequency response h of e to the j omega? And so far we don't have a really good strategy for that, right? If we were going to do that, we'd have to like solve this for h of n, one value of n at a time, which is a lot of work, and then find the pattern in that and compute the Fourier transform. And we'll see what we use today with the properties will give us a better way to do that. Because the first property we'll use is we say, well, I know if this is an LTI system, it has some impulse response. I don't know what it is yet, but I do know that to find the output, I convolve the input with that, right? So that tells me, Fourier transform properties tell me that the output frequency response, or say the output Fourier transform is the frequency response times x of e to the j omega. So if I want to find h of e to the j omega, I need to find a way to get y of e to the j omega divided by x of e to the j omega. So I'm going to try to find a way to manipulate the difference equation. So I end up with something like this. And so let's see how that goes. If I start with my difference equation, I'm going to put this down here at the bottom, or maybe up here on the side. The most important transform property we'll use right now for working with the difference equation is that when I shift a signal in time, I multiply it by a complex exponential and frequency. So using this property, I can break this down sort of one piece at a time and say, well, first I have this thing, this delayed version of the output. When I delay that version of the output, I'll have e to the minus j omega k, right? The shift is k, times y of e to the j omega. If I scale it, I can do this in color. If I scale it by a sub k, I do the same thing in frequency. And if I multiply, or if I add a bunch of these up, linearity tells me I still have additivity for the Fourier transform. So I'm taking I should have said this at the start, I'm taking the Fourier transform of both sides of an equation, because if two sides of an equation are equal, so are their Fourier transforms. So sort of breaking this down using first the delay property in blue, and then the linearity property in green, I get this on the right-hand side. I can go through the same process. I'm sorry, this is the left-hand side. I can use the same process on the right-hand side. Now I say I've got my shift is L, so I have e to the minus j omega L times x of e to the j omega. And then my linearity part is say, well, I'm scaling each one of those by b sub L, and then I'm adding up from L as L goes from 0 to m of them. And looking at this now, the next key step, remembering what I'm trying to get to, is something that looks like y of e to the j omega over x of e to the j omega, is that I look at these things, I can factor the y of e to the j omega and x of e to the j omega out front. Right? If I do that, going back to just single color, I can pull this out front, and then I'll have, right, because this doesn't depend on the k at all in the sum. I've sort of moved all that dependence into these complex exponentials we got from the delay property. And I can do the same thing on the right-hand side. So I pull the x of e to the j omega out front, and what's left when I factor that out is L equals 0 to m of b sub L e to the minus j omega L. And so now I want to end up with y divided by x. I'm going to do something a little bit crazy that will make everything cancel out the way I want. Is I'm going to divide both sides by the sum from the left-hand side, so that's sum over k, a sub k e to the minus j omega k, and x of e to the j omega. So when I divide both sides by that thing, I can do that because that's a valid algebraic thing. But on the left-hand side, I'll cancel these out, and I'll just be left with y of e to the j omega over x. On the right-hand side, the x's will cancel out, and I'll be left with the ratio of these two sums. So when I do that, what I'm left with is that on the left-hand side, I have y e to the j omega over x of e to the j omega. And choirs of angels sing, because this is exactly what I was trying to end up with, right? This is what h of e to the j omega is we found earlier using the convolution / multiplication property, right, where convolving in time made things multiply in frequency. So if I solve that for h, I get this. Well, on the right-hand side, what I have left is the sum of L going from 0 to m, b sub L, e to the minus j omega L. So these are, the numerator are all the terms that came from the delayed versions of the input. The denominator is all the terms that came from the delayed versions of the output we had. So as k goes from 0 to n of a sub k, e to the minus j omega k. So that's what it looks like in general, that for any difference equation, I can take the coefficients off the front of all the different delays, give each one an appropriate e to the minus j omega L based on its delay, and get this into a Fourier transform that will be, we call this a rational Fourier transform, because it's a ratio, right, a quotient of two polynomials. So let's see how that looks with the example I just had here. Again, taking the Fourier transform of both sides, I'd have 7 times x of e to the j omega here, right, because Fourier transform of x of n is x of e to the j omega, minus 2 times e to the minus j omega x of e to the j omega, right, because this is the delay property, makes this multiply by e to the minus j omega. The delay is just 1, and I have a scaling. On the right-hand side, I get y of e to the j omega minus 7/10 e to the minus j omega y of e to the j omega plus 1/10 e to the minus j 2 omega times y of e to the j omega. And now, same process. Next thing to do is to factor out the x and the y on each side. So if I factor out the x of e to the j omega, I'm left with 7 minus 2 e to the minus j omega. And on the right-hand side, I pull out the y of e to the j omega. I'm left with, don't lose that 1, it's important, 1 minus 7/10 e to the minus j omega plus 1/10 e to the minus j 2 omega. And now as the last step, and this is, we have to be careful not to get this upside down. Pro tip, a lot of people do get that backwards when they're starting out. I want to solve for y divided by x. So I'm going to divide both sides by x and divide both sides over here by this thing. Right, so I divide 1 over this second order sum here to the left-hand side, x to the right-hand side. And so when I solve that, I get y of e to the j omega over x of e to the j omega is equal to, on this side I still have the numerator, so I have 7 minus 2 e to the minus j omega over 1 minus 7/10 e to the minus j omega plus 1/10 e to the minus j 2 omega. And so that's my answer. This is the frequency response of this system. This tells me I could plug in for each omega and find out, evaluating the magnitude of the complex number I got, how much gain I have at each frequency. For a system like that, that's not something easily done by hand. It'd be kind of messy. I could do it, but it's also something Matlab is really good at. In fact, Matlab has a command for doing that we'll be seeing more of called the freq command. And in this case, I'll just give you a quick preview. If I wanted to find the frequency response, here I would say it's the freq, F-E-R-E-Q-Z, pronounced freq, of the coefficients of the numerator, so 7 minus 2, and the coefficients of the denominator, so it'd be 1 minus 0.7, because that's 7/10, plus 0.1, and then however many frequencies I want. Maybe I want 1024 frequencies or something like that. So this would be the way I would do it in Matlab, because it's hard to do by hand. But the main lesson for today is to focus on how do I go through using the Fourier transform properties to get from the difference equation to something that looks like this. Okay, so that's all for this video. And in some related videos, I'll show you how you could keep going, start from this again, get to something like this and break it up to get h of n with inverse Fourier transforms. And then I'll show you another example how we can use a very similar technique with properties to find outputs for difference equations when the inputs are signals we have the Fourier transform of. But I'm going to do those in separate videos to break it up. So that's all for this video for right now.